Our next speaker is Gwen Anderson. She's the Director of the Renewable Energy Center at St. Francis University. Gwen has 19 years of experience in the renewable energy and energy efficiency field, initially working for an environmental think tank out of the University of Maryland, as well as her own consulting company. Gwen's work has included investigating the extent to which renewables energy can meet the needs of Southern California and the effect on air quality in the Southern California basin. She's done a lot of work with state legislators on regulatory measures, has done a fair amount of work internationally, looking at renewable energy more generally in the Philippines, in Nigeria, as well as working with developing countries in developing financial approaches for community and rural electrification. In her role as the Director of the Renewable Energy Center at St. Francis, Gwen manages the Renewable Energy Business Certificate Program, which is the primary focus of this discussion, trying to expand beyond just engineering, but looking at all of the other industries that are required for the renewable energy space. She also provides lots of information globally in regards to renewable energy and its cost-effective utilization as a resource. Gwen holds an MBA in finance and an MA in international development, appropriate electrification technology. So Gwen is going to talk about the work that St. Francis has done, specifically looking at the business of renewable energy.
Thank you, Ian. The slide that is loading is that DOE, I'm thanking DOE for funding the development of our program and making it possible for us to experiment on an initial series of guinea pigs to test the classes out and learn on them. In addition to thanking DOE for making it possible, I'd like to thank the Curriculum Development Committee for providing additional feedback. These folks reviewed the materials for each course to make sure that our classes met their needs as employers. And finally, and one of the students is online, I'd like to thank the students who were generous with their feedback and helped us to improve the classes as we went through them. St. Francis University is a rural university halfway between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh. In 2003, the Vice President for Strategic Initiatives, Dick Crawford, decided to see if the Allegheny Ridge near us would make for a good wind farm. He had the resource measured, talked with landowners, and now there are two wind farms there, Babcock and Brown and Duke. I can actually see the turbines from my office. It's 80 megawatts in capacity. The Renewable Energy Center runs a number of programs intended to help overcome barriers to renewable energy, including getting slides to load and an anemometer loan program. This program has already led to another wind farm that will have 34 megawatts of capacity and should be in place by the end of the year. Again, with DOE funding, we have an undergraduate renewable energy engineering program and the graduate level business program that I'm going to discuss today. Oh, that was much faster. See what happens when you don't have pictures in? The purpose of the program is to meet the needs for business and policy understanding in the wind industry. In addition to engineering knowledge, the wind industry needs individuals trained in planning, financing, and deploying renewable energy projects so that everyone doesn't have to learn the hard way, but can learn from the experiences of others. Equipment manufacturers, project developers, lenders, and utilities all need this knowledge. But the wind industry also needs government officials at all levels to understand the wind industry, why it is beneficial, and what's needed to secure these benefits. Not only do people going into the industry need to understand the business and policy aspects to advance their careers, but the industry needs regulators and government officials to get it. Our students have included engineers, of course, but also regulators, federal and local government officials, nonprofits, and people who are looking to be hired into renewable energy. We had 20 students in our guinea pig series. 3 of them credit this program with helping them to get jobs. With only a note on LinkedIn, I had 55 applicants for 20 spaces, most of them with graduate degrees. I gave a presentation at the USDA meeting in Pittsburgh about the program, and their HR department wanted to send 10 students. This was just the Pennsylvania USDA. Key facets of the class is that it focuses on business and policy. While it is online, the classes are live and interactive with a set time, Tuesday nights. Because it's online, the classes are recorded, which is very handy if the students can't make it, which happens when you've got busy working students. In addition, the last series of classes had people from the Philippines, Korea, Ethiopia, Sri Lanka, the Netherlands, Mexico, and Portugal, as well as across the United States, which meant great worldwide networking opportunities. These are some of the non-engineering things that people in the industry need to understand. There are 4 courses. The second wind course goes into greater detail. It covers material that is important for all of the renewable energies, but it comes from a wind energy perspective. As you're probably starting to see, there is some overlap between the courses. However, we work the classes together as a whole. So if one professor goes into an issue in detail, the other professors know that they can use the students' time more effectively by just touching on the issue. The final class is renewable energy applications. It covers everything but wind, but it's able to go into greater detail on some things, like community impact and community engagement, as well as policy and its impact around the world. We use RETScreen in this class so that the students can play with different variables and see the impact of those variables on the financial viability of a project. After every course, I sent out an anonymous survey. As you can see, each class scored highly, all above 8 out of 10, and with a sizable number of the students saying that they were already putting the new knowledge to use. Project cost and risk management is essentially project management for renewable energy. Not everyone at St. Francis University was certain that this was really needed, and in fact, not all of the students did need it. Many had already taken project management classes or felt that they knew what they needed to. However, 66.7% saying that they were using what they were learning in their work today speaks to the value of that class. Again, the responses were really favorable. These quotes are from a venture capitalist, someone who works for a renewable energy installer, a contractor to DOE, and an official from the USDA. One of the things that we did before each class was to hold an orientation session. This allowed the professor to introduce himself and the students to introduce themselves to each other. It allowed us to cover all of the administrivia without taking up class time. Finally, it allowed everyone to discover and work out the technical kinks before the real class started, and thus in a less stressful situation. Given the risk of advertising and given that the audience is dispersed, I'm unsure if there's really enough demand to do this at most schools on their premises. There will be some students who are going to want it intensely, but will there be enough students at each individual college who want it in order for it to be sustainable? This is one of the reasons why I think articulation agreements make sense. Then many schools can offer this as part of their program, but without every school going to the expense of developing it themselves. I'm looking to develop articulation agreements, which is a way for you to meet student interest in these classes without the risk of developing a program, and it's a way to funnel our students into your graduate programs. Given the incredible need for this around the world and the convenience of taking it online, this is very appropriate for developing countries. One of the things that we did is that the professors came from industry, and so they had to be taught how to teach and how to make the classes interactive. This picture shows you how some of the ways in which we were able to make the classes interactive. This little icon series shows a tiny little microphone, and down here there's another microphone. You can hand the microphone around during the class, and the students can speak live and ask their questions or give the answer to questions, or they can give presentations. And in most of the classes, the students gave presentations. In this column, the students get a pen, and they can write in the chat section to each other and to the professors. They can make comments during the class. They can ask questions during the class. The professor can ask them questions and then do some quick polling. So how many people believe X, and then if you do, click on the green arrow, and if you don't, click on the red X in this column. Students can raise their hand in this column if they have a question that they want to ask. In addition, there's a tool that allows the professor to just open up the entire slide, and then all of the students can write on the slide anonymously. One of the nice things about this is that it helps get students over the hump where they're afraid to ask questions because they can do it anonymously. For this last one, women like convenience. Working dads with young children, as one of the students was, also appreciate convenience, but I was struck by having 50% women in the class. Yes, it is renewable energy, and yes, there are more women in renewable energy than there are in other engineering disciplines, but there aren't 50% of women in renewable energy. This is how people can arrange to take the class. They can sign up directly on our website. We can arrange articulation agreements or contracts. For example, we've been included on some bids to USAID. USDA expressed an interest in having some of their employees trained. In addition, one of the students was from the Philippines, and he worked for Coastal Renewable Energy Technology Center. He was so impressed by the class, and his employers were so impressed with what he was learning, that we have a special arrangement with them to offer these courses in the Philippines through them. So the students in the Philippines can either take the classes from their home, or they can take it from their employer, or they can go into Coastal Renewable Energy Technology Center's specially set up classroom and not have to deal with the technology at all. I hope I've gotten us back on schedule to some extent, Ian.
Yes, you definitely have.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much for doing that.